Today we're diving into something really common for English learners.
That mental back and forth.
Exactly, the constant translating in your head. It slows down your speaking.
It makes understanding feel like hard work, right?
Totally. So we've gathered some thoughts on how you can, break free from that.
Yeah, think about it like this. Imagine listening in one language while trying to simultaneously translate it into another.
Uh-huh.
It's incredibly taxing. Just really drains your mental energy. That's the kind of effort we mean.
Right, and just getting past that automatic urge, that reflex to translate everything, that's a massive first step.
Huge. Towards speaking more smoothly, getting into the real flow of English.
It's like having this unnecessary middleman.
Yeah, a go-between that just gums up the works.
So it stops you from directly getting the English concepts.
Exactly. It puts up a barrier. Your brain takes this extra detour through your native language instead of just, engaging directly with English.
And that detour, that can cause problems too, can't it? Misunderstandings.
Oh, absolutely. Because word-for-word translation often misses the real meaning.
The nuance.
The nuance, the cultural context, just the natural way words are used together in English. It's like trying to force a key that doesn't quite fit.
And doing that constantly, that mental ping pong, it must be exhausting.
It really can be. It can turn learning into this frustrating internal battle.
So the big goal then, the real aim, is to actually start thinking directly in English. Why is that such a critical step for fluency?
Well, because it just cuts out that delay, the translation lag. Your thoughts can flow straight into English words, so your responses much faster, more natural.
You're not having to build the sentence twice, basically.
Yeah.
Once in your head, in your language, and then again in English.
Precisely. You skip that conversion step.
And it's not just about being faster, is it? There's more to it.
Oh, definitely. Thinking in English helps you develop a much, much deeper feel for the language itself.
How so?
Well, it lets you really internalize those natural word combinations, collocations.
Like strong coffee, not powerful coffee.
Exactly. And idiomatic expressions, too. Things that make your English sound less bookish.
Less like a textbook, more like how people actually talk.
Right. You start to absorb the underlying logic, the rhythm of English.
So just imagine, for you listening, how much smoother your communication could be if your thoughts just flowed right into English words.
It really is a transformation, which brings us neatly to our first point, that crucial link between thinking in English and, fluency.
Okay, let's unpack that. How does thinking in English actually lead to those quicker responses you mentioned and feeling more confident?
Well, when your brain is already working in English, the pathways are, primed. They're ready to go.
Okay.
So when you need to speak, there's no pause needed for translation. That leads to faster, more spontaneous answers. And that ease, that naturally makes you feel more confident.
Yeah, that makes total sense. If you're not constantly second-guessing or searching for the translation, you're bound to feel more sure of yourself.
Definitely.
And what about sounding more authentic, more natural?
That's another huge plus. By thinking in English, you start absorbing the natural flow, the patterns.
Right.
You're not just sticking translated words together. You're actually forming thoughts the way an English speaker might. So the result is more genuine, more idiomatic speech.
So you shift from being a translator inside your own head.
To being a thinker in English. You're operating directly within the language.
That's a great way to put it. Okay, now let's flip to the other side. Comprehension. Understanding. How does thinking in English help there?
Well, if your brain's already in English mode, let's call it, it processes what you hear much more efficiently.
Because it doesn't have that decoding step.
Exactly. You're not having to decode word by word and then rebuild the meaning in your own language. Your mind's already tuned in.
So following faster conversations becomes easier. And picking up on subtleties.
Precisely. You get better at catching those subtle hints, implied meanings, maybe cultural references, things that often get lost in direct translation. Your mind gets attuned to the rhythm, the intonation of English. That really helps with different accents, too, and more informal colloquial speech.
And it must free up a lot of brain power, right? The energy you were using for translation.
Oh, absolutely. All that cognitive load that was tied up in constant translation, it's now free.
Free for what?
For actually listening. For understanding the message more deeply, more completely, getting the full picture.
Okay, another piece of this puzzle. Confidence and pronunciation.
Yeah.
How do they link up in this positive cycle?
Well, when your communication starts feeling smoother, more natural, because you're thinking directly in English, that success builds confidence. It's simple, positive reinforcement.
You feel more capable.
Right. And that makes you less afraid of making mistakes. You become more willing to actually speak, to participate, to practice.
And less fear means more practice, which means improvement. It's a good cycle.
Exactly. And thinking in English also directly impacts your pronunciation.
How so?
Because you start to internalize the sounds of the language, the music of it, its natural melody. You're not just seeing words on a page, you're thinking the sounds as you form the thought.
So that little hesitation you might have while you're mentally translating before speaking, that starts to fade.
Exactly that. The direct link from thought to speech minimizes that pause. It leads to a more natural, confident delivery. And often your pronunciation improves simply because you're more tuned into the flow of spoken English.
Okay, so we see why thinking in English is so important. But what are the common roadblocks, the habits that actually stop us from making that switch?
Well, one of the biggest ones is just relying too heavily on translation itself.
How do you mean?
Many learners treat English like a matching game, constantly trying to find the exact equivalent word or phrase in their native language for everything new.
So when they want to speak, the first step is always back to their own language.
Yes. Their brain defaults to building the idea there first, then trying to translate it piece by piece.
Which creates a bottleneck.
A huge bottleneck. It really slows down processing and production. The focus really needs to shift towards understanding meaning from context, from English definitions, from associations within English.
Right, breaking that link back to the native language.
Exactly.
Another thing I hear about a lot is getting bogged down in grammar rules.
Oh, yes. Overanalyzing sentence structure before you speak can totally paralyze you, freeze your thoughts.
You're trying to get it perfect before you even start.
Right, whereas thinking in English involves developing a more intuitive grasp of grammar. You get that through exposure, through practice, trusting the understanding you build up over time.
It's like trying to learn to ride a bike by memorizing physics equations first.
Exactly. Never get on the bike. Another big hurdle, just the fear of making mistakes.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That anxiety leads to hesitation, maybe sticking to really simple sentences you know are safe, avoiding chances to actually speak.
That perfectionism trap again, wanting it right the first time.
Which just isn't realistic, is it? Mistakes are completely natural. They're essential, actually. They're how you learn.
Feedback.
Valuable feedback, prioritizing getting your message across, especially early on, over perfect grammar.
Yeah.
That's key.
And I guess, finally, if you just don't hear or use enough English.
Lack of immersion, yes. If your main contact with English is just, say, a weekly class, your mind doesn't get enough exposure to its natural patterns.
It doesn't get used to it.
Right. You need to surround yourself with it. Music, movies, books, conversations. Create that mental environment where English starts to feel, well, normal, default even.
Okay, challenges identified.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the solutions.
Yeah.
Practical strategies. What's the very first thing we can start doing?
Strategy 1 is beautifully simple but really powerful. Consciously name things around you in English all day long.
So as I'm looking around my room now, instead of my native word for lamp, think lamp.
Exactly. Start with the calming stuff. Table, chair, window, phone. Then level up. Go for more specific things. Door handle, light switch, keyboard key. You can even do it for abstract concepts. Happiness, frustration, or actions, eating, walking.
So it becomes like a constant, silent running commentary of your world, but in English.
Precisely. Make it a habit, a quiet dialogue with your surroundings. You could also try creating mental lists, like all the kitchen utensils you can think of in English or types of fruit.
Why does this help so much?
Because it builds a direct link in your brain. Object equals English word. It weakens that reliance on the translation step.
Makes sense. Okay, what's strategy number 2?
Number 2 is about harnessing that voice inside your head, your internal monologue.
Okay.
So strategy is to consciously switch that inner voice to English.
So instead of thinking, oh, I need milk in my language, I deliberately think I need milk.
Exactly that. Start simple. Describe what you're doing right now. I am sitting down. I am drinking tea. Then maybe reflect on thoughts or feelings. I feel tired. This podcast is interesting.
So you're basically narrating your own life to yourself in English.
Yes. And use it for planning, tonight I will watch a movie. Or reviewing, that meeting went well. You can even practice imaginary conversations.
Does grammar matter much here?
Initially, not perfectly. The main goal is just getting your mind used to operating in English mode, just flexing that muscle. Consistent practice here makes English thoughts feel more natural, and that definitely flows into better speaking.
Okay, strategy 3 sounds a bit more academic.
Okay.
Use an English dictionary. Why is that better than just translating a word?
Because it forces you to stay within the English language. You look up a word, you get the definition in English, synonyms in English, example sentences in English.
No escape route back to your native language.
Exactly. No quick translation shortcut. You have to actively engage with English to understand English. This really activates English thinking.
You're not just memorizing an equivalent, you're exploring the word's neighborhood, so to speak.
That's a great way to put it. You see how it's used, what other words relate to it. You encounter more vocabulary, different grammar structures, all within the definitions and examples.
So you should really read the example sentences too.
Absolutely. Analyze them. Try making your own sentences. Maybe even look up interesting words you find within the definition. It creates this expanding web of understanding, all in English.
It might feel slower at first, though.
It probably will, yeah. But the long-term payoff for truly thinking in English is huge. It's worth that initial extra effort.
Got it. Strategy number 4. Build from simplicity. What's the idea here?
It means when you're starting out with thinking in English, don't try to translate complex, elaborate thoughts directly. Start small.
Focus on simple sentences.
Yes. Concrete things. What's right in front of you.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Instead of a complex thought like, maybe I would really appreciate obtaining a cup of coffee right now due to feeling somewhat fatigued.
Right.
Just think, I want coffee. I'm tired.
Yeah.
Simple, direct.
And then build up from there.
Exactly. Once that feels comfortable, you can start adding details. Simple connectors like, and, but, because. I want coffee because I am tired.
Why does this approach work well?
It lets you focus on automating the really basic vocabulary and grammar without getting overwhelmed. Plus, simpler sentences make it much easier to spot and fix your own errors early on.
Okay, strategy 5 brings us back to that inner voice. Cultivate an inner voice in English. How is this different from strategy 2?
It's really about deepening that practice. Strategy 2 is about starting the internal dialogue. This one is about making English the default setting for that inner voice.
So it becomes automatic.
That's the goal. It's a conscious effort, especially at first. When you catch yourself thinking in your native language, gently redirect. Try to reformulate the thought in English.
And listening helps here too, Ray.
Immensely. Actively surrounding yourself with spoken English podcasts like this one, audiobooks, music, movies, feeds your inner voice. It absorbs the rhythms, the phrasing.
So the more you listen, the more natural your own internal English voice becomes.
Precisely. It becomes more fluent, more automatic over time, and that has a massive impact on your speaking and understanding.
Which leads perfectly into our final strategy, number 6. Surround yourself with an immersive English environment.
Yes. Immersion is like putting fuel on the fire. It just accelerates everything, especially fostering that direct English thought.
And you don't necessarily need to move to an English-speaking country to do this?
Not at all. You can create a surprisingly immersive environment right where you are.
How?
Simple things first. Change your phone language to English. Your computer. Label things around your house in English. The fridge, the microwave. Constantly listen to English audio, even just in the background sometimes.
What about visual stuff?
Definitely. Watch movies and TV shows in English. Start with subtitles in your language if you need them, then switch to English subtitles, then try without any. It's a great progression.
And reading.
Crucial. Read English books, newspapers, blogs, websites, anything that interests you. It exposes you to vocabulary and sentence structure and context.
And then there's actually using it.
Right. Seek out opportunities for active immersion. Conversations with native speakers, language exchange partners online, joining English-speaking communities or clubs if possible. Both passive listening and reading and active speaking and writing are vital to break that translation habit.
Okay, so we have these 6 core strategies to really make this stick. What about some specific daily exercises, things people can do consistently?
Good point. Habits are key. Maybe start and end your day just by thinking a few simple English sentences. How you feel, what your plans are, just sets the tone.
Like a mental check-in in English.
Exactly. Another powerful one. Set aside a specific no translation time each day, even just 15 minutes. During that window, you commit to thinking only in English. No exceptions.
That sounds challenging but effective.
It can be. Also, try speaking aloud in English, even if you're alone.
Talking to yourself.
Yeah. Describe what you're doing. I'm making breakfast now. I need to find my keys. It connects the thoughts to the actual spoken words, bridges that gap.
What about during everyday tasks?
Integrate it. Cooking, Think of the ingredients, the steps in English. Shopping. Think about the items, the prices in English. Make it part of your routine.
And maybe writing.
Keeping a simple journal in English is fantastic. Doesn't have to be long essays, just a few sentences about your day, your thoughts. It practices written English thought.
And the mindset. Be patient.
Absolutely crucial. Be patient with yourself. Celebrate small progress. See mistakes not as failures, but as, well, learning opportunities. It takes time and consistent effort. But daily practice really will turn English thinking into a much more natural habit over time.
Okay, so let's quickly recap those strategies. We had consciously naming your world in English.
Using that internal dialogue in English.
Getting stuck into an English dictionary.
Building up from simple sentences.
Really cultivating that inner English voice.
And creating that immersive English environment around you.
Plus those daily habits. Starting and ending the day in English, no translation periods, speaking aloud, integrating it into tasks, journaling.
And the underlying message through all of this is that making this shift from constant mental translation to thinking directly in English, it's just fundamental.
Yeah, absolutely crucial for hitting higher levels of fluency, better understanding, and feeling genuinely more confident when you use the language.
Definitely.
So for you listening, maybe take a moment to think about which of these strategies kind of clicks with you the most. Which one could you realistically start doing, maybe even today?
Yeah, even just small, consistent steps can lead to really significant breakthroughs in how you engage with English.
It really can.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to ponder. Now that you have these tools, these strategies, how are you going to actively start reshaping that internal linguistic landscape? How will you unlock your full potential in English?
It really comes down to taking that active control, doesn't it? Making English your mind's primary operating system. Consistent effort here, it will absolutely lead to a more intuitive, more natural command of the language. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.
Thanks for listening. And if you found the video helpful, please hit the like button. Make sure to subscribe to my channel so you never miss an episode, and share it with others who might benefit. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes, we'd love to hear from you. So your feedback is really important to us. And if you want to continue learning right now, here in this playlist, you'll find helpful videos for English listening practice. You might want to watch it next. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.